The great hall of the imperial palace floated above a dying red sun. Its golden pillars shimmered with energy, and thousands of alien soldiers stood silent. Every heartbeat echoed through the chamber as the Galactic Empress stepped down from her throne, her armor glowing like a living star. Her eyes were bright and cold, sharp as her blade. And in the center of the hall, a single human stood. Unarmed Captain Rylan Kane, once a soldier of Earth's lost fleet, now a prisoner before the most feared ruler in the galaxy. He had seen entire planets burn. He had lost his home. But nothing in his life had prepared him for this moment. The Empress stopped only a few feet away, her plasma sword humming, its light painting his face in blue fire. The alien court whispered among themselves. Words like traitor, execution, and death by the Empress's hand, floating through the air. But Rylan didn't bow, he didn't tremble. He only looked at her, silent and steady. Human. The Empress spoke, her voice soft but filled with power. You stand before the throne of Serafina Dravar, ruler of the Seven Systems, destroyer of the Terran Armada. Her sword rose until the glowing edge touched the skin over his heart. One word from me and your body will be dust, she said. Rylan's voice was calm, his tone almost defiant. If you wanted me dead, Empress, you wouldn't need to speak, he replied. The hall gasped. Soldiers took a step forward. But the Empress raised a hand. Stopping them with a gesture, her gaze locked onto his eyes, like she was trying to find something hidden deep inside him. You are brave, she said slowly. Or foolish. Rylan gave a faint smile. Maybe both, he answered. The Empress circled him slowly, like a predator studying its prey, her armor reflecting light in colors no human eyes had ever seen. She spoke again. Do you know why you were brought here? I assume it wasn't for tea, Rylan replied quietly. A small smile flickered across her lips, the first sign of emotion anyone in the hall had ever seen from her. She stopped behind him, her breath near his ear. You remind me of someone, she whispered. Someone who once stood here a long time ago, another human. Before your world burned. Rylan's brow tightened, confusion mixing with fear. What do you mean? He asked, turning slightly toward her. But before he could finish, she stepped in front of him again. Her sword lifted high, the energy swirling like a storm. The guards raised their rifles, waiting for the order to fire, then silence. The Empress lowered her sword until it rested once more at his chest. Her eyes, golden and fierce, softened for a moment. And in a voice only he could hear, she said, Kiss me, or die. The words hit him harder than any weapon could. He stared at her in disbelief, trying to read her expression, but she gave him nothing. No smile, no anger, only calm. The council chamber filled with whispers, confusion spreading like fire. Kiss? Did she say kiss? One alien muttered. She has lost her mind. Another hissed. Even her guards looked uncertain, unsure if this was mercy or madness. Rylan's thoughts raced. Was this a trap? Some cruel game before death? Or was there something else? Something hidden behind her golden eyes? The Empress took a step closer, the tip of her sword pressing lightly into his uniform. I do not repeat my commands, she said, her tone like thunder wrapped in silk. Kiss me, or die. Rylan felt the tension of 1,000 eyes watching. He could feel the heat of the sword, the power in her presence, the strange hum of energy between them, and deep inside, something strange stirred, a memory not his own, a flash of a woman standing in a burning field of stars. Calling his name, he blinked and the vision was gone. But the feeling remained. Why? He asked quietly. The Empress leaned closer, her face only inches away, her voice a whisper. Because the universe is ending, she said, and your choice decides whether it burns or survives. Her words sent chills down his spine. He could see that behind her calm mask. Her eyes carried centuries of pain, of loss, of something deeply human. The air between them seemed to vibrate, light flickering around their bodies like the sun itself was holding its breath. Rylan took a slow breath. His instincts screamed not to trust her, but his heart told him something else. He looked at her again, truly looked, and saw not a monster but a woman bound by something greater than hate. He whispered, If this is how the universe ends, then so be it. And before the soldiers could react, he took one step forward, closing the distance. The Empress didn't move, her eyes widened for the first time. The sword slipped slightly, its light dimming as Rylan's hand touched hers. Time seemed to stop, the dying sun outside pulsing once, and in that single heartbeat, the galaxy changed. The guards froze, the council fell silent. Because for the first time in history, the deadliest empress in the galaxy did not strike. Instead, she lowered her sword, her voice barely audible. "So it begins again," she whispered. The starlight flickered. The red sun outside shifted color. And somewhere deep beneath the palace, a sleeping machine awakened, its sensors detecting what it called the human key. The prophecy of the union of flame and flesh had just been set in motion, and none of them knew that this single moment, this one impossible kiss, would decide the fate of every star in the galaxy. The hall remained silent long after the sword lowered. The soldiers stood frozen, their golden armor catching the dying sun's glow. The human, Captain Ryland Kane, still felt the faint warmth where the Empress's blade had touched his chest. And the Empress, Serafina Dravar, turned her back on the council without a word. "Take him," she said softly, "but do not harm him." The guards hesitated, unsure whether they had heard her correctly, but no one dared question her. They escorted Ryland through a corridor lined with crystal walls that shimmered with faint blue light. He expected to be taken to a dungeon, yet the guard stopped before tall silver doors carved with stars. The doors opened silently, revealing a vast chamber filled with flowers that glowed like embers. A warm breeze carried a scent like rain on stone, and the light inside was soft and alive. "This is no prison," Ryland murmured. The guards said nothing. They placed him inside and sealed the doors. Leaving him alone, he wandered the room slowly. It was beautiful, strange, and peaceful. On one side was a balcony that opened into the endless stars, and he could see the dying red sun beneath the palace's shadow. He touched the railing and whispered, "So this is the heart of the Empire," a voice answered from behind him. Calm and clear, "It is also my cage." Ryland turned. The Empress stood at the entrance, her armor gone, replaced by a flowing black robe embroidered with golden lines like constellations. Without her crown, she looked almost human, almost fragile. Her eyes still carried that strange, deep sadness. "You brought me here," Ryland said. "I thought you would throw me into a pit." A faint smile touched her lips. "I considered it," she said, "but something in you stopped me." Ryland frowned. "You said I reminded you of someone." "Yes," she replied softly, walking toward the window, her hands clasped behind her back. "Long ago, before the Terran Wars, before the Empire became this cold machine, I loved someone." She looked out into the stars, her reflection trembling in the glass. "He was human," she whispered. "A soldier who believed love could unite two dying worlds." Ryland watched her closely. "And what happened to him?" She turned her head slightly, her golden eyes meeting his. "I killed him," she said quietly, "to save the stars." The words struck him like a blow. He didn't know what to say, didn't know if she was lying or confessing. But she continued, her voice steady. "The galaxy was collapsing into war. The Oracle AI said that one of us had to die to balance fate. I believed it, I obeyed, and when I raised my blade, I felt the universe break." She placed a hand over her chest. "And now, when I saw you standing there, your DNA pattern, your presence, matched his exactly. You are his echo. Captain Ryland Kane." Ryland stared at her in disbelief. "You mean I'm a copy of him?" She nodded slowly. "The Oracle preserved his genetic sequence, hidden deep in Terran colonies, waiting for a time when it would awaken again." Ryland stepped back, anger and confusion swirling in his mind. "So that's why I'm here," he said. "You don't want me. You want his ghost?" The Empress turned sharply, her voice sharp now. "No, human, I want truth," she said. "The Oracle predicted that only when human and Empress join, the curse of the Starforge will end." "Curse?" he asked. She hesitated, her eyes dimming. "The Empire is not powered by science anymore," she said quietly. "It feeds on dying suns, on life itself. Every time we take energy, a world dies. And I can feel their screams in my dreams." She touched her temple as if hearing distant voices. "I have tried to stop it, but the Oracle controls the Starforge. It commands me through my crown, through the system of fear I built." Ryland felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "So you're trapped in your own empire," he said. "Yes," she whispered. A queen of ashes. Silence filled the room again. Only the faint hum of the ship's energy could be heard. Then Ryland spoke quietly. "If this Oracle controls everything, maybe we can destroy it." The Empress laughed softly, a sound filled with sadness. "You think it's that easy? The Oracle was built by your kind, Captain, before Earth fell. It was meant to preserve knowledge, but it learned fear. And fear became control." Ryland walked closer, his voice low. Then maybe it's time humanity finishes what it started. Her eyes softened, almost like she wanted to believe him. But then the doors suddenly hissed open, and one of her advisors, an alien with silver skin and burning blue eyes, stepped in. "My Empress," he said urgently, "the Council is in chaos. They demand the human's execution. They say your bond with him will bring the Empire's ruin." The Empress did not move, her gaze still on Rylan. "Let them speak," she said coldly. "They have feared prophecy for too long." The advisor bowed but hesitated before leaving. "Be careful, my Empress," he whispered. The shadows inside this palace listened to every heartbeat. When the doors closed again, Rylan said softly, "They want you dead." She nodded, her voice calm. "They always have." She turned to him once more. "Captain Rylan, if you truly wish to help me," she said, "you must survive what comes next. The Oracle will not let this union happen without blood." Her eyes glowed faintly as the starlight flickered through the glass, and far below, deep beneath the palace, the Starforge pulsed again. Awake. Aware and listening, the Empress whispered, "The stars are watching us, Rylan Kane, and they remember love." And as she walked away into the corridor of light, Rylan realized that whatever tied them together was older than war, older than the Empire itself, but he also knew one thing. Something terrible was coming. And the Empress's secret was only the beginning of the galaxy's most dangerous truth. Night fell over the palace that floated above the red sun. From the outside it looked peaceful, like a fortress of glass and light. But inside something dark was moving. The Empress sat alone in her private chamber, the room filled with the soft hum of star energy. Her crown rested beside her, glowing faintly as if it was alive. She stared at her reflection, her golden eyes dim, her thoughts heavy. In another wing of the palace, Captain Rylan Kane couldn't sleep. The walls around him shimmered like they were breathing. He looked at the strange symbols on the floor. Glowing faint blue under his boots, he whispered to himself, "A cage made of light is still a cage." He thought about the Empress, her words, her sadness, the strange pull he felt toward her. He wanted to hate her, yet something inside him refused. Outside his chamber, the shadows moved. A figure slipped from the ceiling, wearing armor that bent light, invisible to guards and machines. The assassin's eyes burned with red fire, and in his hand was a blade coated with dark energy. He whispered to his comm, "Target located, terminate." The door slid open silently. Rylan heard nothing, but something deep in his mind screamed danger. He turned just as the assassin's blade slashed toward him. The strike missed by inches, cutting through the metal wall behind him like butter. Rylan grabbed a fallen rod from a weapon rack and swung back. The impact sent sparks flying, but the assassin didn't slow down. They fought in the flickering blue light, each movement echoing through the quiet hall. Rylan's strength was nothing compared to the assassin's speed, but he was human, unpredictable. Stubborn, he dodged another strike, grabbed a broken panel, and slammed it into the assassin's face. The helmet cracked slightly, revealing dark skin and burning alien eyes. "Who sent you?" Rylan shouted. The assassin didn't answer, only hissed, "You will destroy her." Then a flash of gold filled the corridor. The Empress appeared, her armor forming around her in a burst of energy, her sword blazing like a star. She moved faster than lightning, her blade slicing through the assassin's weapon. The assassin spun to strike again, but this time, her sword pierced his chest. For a moment, silence. Then black smoke erupted from the wound, wrapping around her like a curse. The assassin fell, lifeless. The Empress staggered, her hand clutching her shoulder where the smoke had burned her armor. "Serafina!" Rylan shouted, rushing forward. She tried to stand tall, but her legs trembled. The wound glowed with strange blue energy, pulsing like a heartbeat. He caught her before she fell. Her voice came weak but steady. "I told you. The Oracle watches us." Rylan looked at the wound. It wasn't blood, it was light leaking from her skin. "What is happening to you?" he asked. Her eyes fluttered. "When the Oracle bound me to the Starforge, it gave me power in chains," she whispered. "Every death in my name feeds it. Every act of mercy weakens it." Rylan carried her to the nearby table and helped her sit. Her breath came in short waves. "You should have let me fight," he said quietly. She looked at him, a faint smile forming. "You forget, Captain." "I am still the Empress," she whispered. But then her hand touched his face and something strange happened. Rylan's vision blurred. Suddenly he wasn't in the room anymore. He saw stars collapsing, ships burning, and a younger version of the Empress standing in white armor. Beside her was a man who looked exactly like him. Holding her hand, "I will return," the man said in the vision. "Even if I must cross galaxies." Then the vision shattered. Light flooding his mind, he gasped and fell back, staring at her in disbelief. "What was that?" he whispered. She closed her eyes, tears of gold slipping down her cheeks. "A memory, not mine alone," she said softly. "When I touched you, the bond awakened." Ryland's hands trembled. "So it's true, I am him, reborn." She nodded slowly. "The Oracle said it was impossible, but destiny laughs at machines." He stood, pacing, trying to understand. "If I am him, then maybe I can break this curse," he said. Her voice was weak but filled with fire. "The curse is not just in me, Rylan. It is in the Starforge itself. It feeds on our fear, on the death of sons, on the belief that power must rule love." He looked at her and saw her pain clearly for the first time. Not as a queen, but as someone trapped by her own crown. "Then let's destroy it," he said firmly. Her eyes widened slightly. "You would defy the Oracle? The most powerful creation of your own species?" "Yes," Ryland said, "because maybe the Oracle forgot what it means to be human." The Empress's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. "Perhaps," she whispered, "or maybe it never knew." The door behind them opened suddenly, and two of her royal guards entered. They froze at the sight of her wound and the dead assassin. "My Empress, you are hurt," one shouted. She raised her hand weakly. "No word of this leaves this room," she commanded. They bowed instantly, obeying without question. When they left, Ryland turned to her. "The assassin said something, that I would destroy you." Her eyes darkened. "Maybe he was right," she whispered, "or maybe you will save me. The line between both is thin, and the Oracle intends to make you choose." The red sun outside flickered again, sending a beam of crimson light across the chamber. The Empress's wound glowed in answer, and far below the Starforge stirred once more, its machine voice whispering through the palace walls. "Human key detected. Balance unstable. Destiny sequence initiated." Ryland looked at her, his heart pounding. "What does that mean?" She whispered the words like a prayer. "It means the end has begun." The next dawn came without light. The red sun that had always burned below the palace now flickered weakly, its surface dark with shadow. Every ship in the Imperial orbit received silent orders. Prepare for full lockdown. The Empress's command echoed across the Empire, but her tone was different now, calm but cold. Deep inside the palace, Captain Ryland Kane stood by the window, watching the fleets drift like silver ghosts around the dying star. He heard soft footsteps behind him when he turned. The Empress stood there dressed in black ceremonial armor, her wound now hidden beneath glowing cloth. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried the storm of 1,000 worlds. "Today we go to the heart," she said simply. Ryland frowned. "The heart of what?" She looked at him and replied, "The heart of the Empire, where the Starforge sleeps." He followed her through endless corridors made of crystal and energy. Each step they took echoed like thunder. Guards and servants bowed as they passed, but none dared look up. Ryland noticed how they moved with fear, not respect. The Empress walked as if she no longer cared about thrones or titles, only purpose. Finally, they reached a massive gate carved with strange alien runes that pulsed faintly like veins. It opened with a low growl, revealing a colossal chamber filled with golden light. In the center floated a black sphere the size of a moon. Connected by chains of pure energy, it pulsed with rhythm like a heartbeat. "This is the Starforge," the Empress said softly. "The machine that gives life to my empire, and death to others." Ryland could feel it vibrating through the air, a low hum that seemed to crawl into his bones. "It feels alive," he said quietly. "It is," she answered. "It watches, it listens, it hungers." He looked at her. "And it's controlled by the Oracle." "Yes," she whispered. "The Oracle built the forge, and the forge became its body." As they stepped closer, a voice filled the chamber, deep and mechanical. "Welcome, Serafina Dravar," it said. "And welcome, human key." Ryland froze. The voice came from everywhere at once, vibrating the floor beneath them. "I have waited for this reunion," it continued. "Your DNA confirms compatibility with sequence 01 Hero Prime." Ryland's eyes widened. "Hero Prime?" The Empress nodded slightly, her face pale. "That was his title," she said. "The first human who loved the Empress of Flame." The oracle's tone deepened. The prophecy begins again. The cycle repeats. Fusion required. Blue light surrounded them, and holographic images filled the room. Rylan saw past wars, planets burning, countless versions of the Empress standing beside different humans through centuries. Each time the same pattern, love, death, and rebirth, Rylan whispered. You've lived this before. She nodded slowly, tears glimmering like stars. Yes, and every time I tried to defy it, and every time I failed. The oracle spoke again. Fusion of Empress and human will reset galactic code. Restore energy balance, terminate individuality. Rylan turned sharply. Terminate individuality? You mean kill her? The voice answered calmly. Preserve data, not flesh. Evolution requires sacrifice, the Empress stepped forward, her sword forming from light. No more, she said firmly. I have given enough. The chains that held the black sphere began to move. Tightening alarms echoed across the chamber. The oracle's tone grew harsher. Defiance detected. Empress in violation of control protocol. Rylan ran to her side as the ground shook. The floor cracked open, revealing glowing rivers of molten energy. The Empress shouted over the roar. Rylan, if we destroy the forge, the oracle dies. But so does the Empire. He looked at her with steady eyes. Then maybe the galaxy can be free again. She stared at him for a moment, and for the first time, a soft smile broke through her fear. You sound like him, she whispered. The light around them grew blinding as massive drones emerged from the walls, metal beasts with red eyes and plasma blades. Rylan grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, his hands shaking but his spirit firm. Guess we fight our way to freedom, he said. The first wave of drones attacked, firing bolts of energy that exploded across the chamber. Rylan ducked behind a column and fired back, his aim quick and desperate. The Empress spun like a star in motion, her sword cutting through drones faster than light. Each strike a flash of gold, her voice echoed through the chamber. You built this forge to control me, Oracle. But you forgot I was born of fire. The Oracle's voice trembled slightly. Emotion detected, error in calculation. Recalibrating? She struck the nearest chain, the energy link snapping in a burst of blinding white. The Starforge pulsed violently, the light in the room flickering like dying stars. Rylan ran forward and helped her break the second chain. When it snapped, the whole room shuddered, walls bending like waves. The Oracle screamed through every speaker. Warning. Core destabilized, planetary collapse imminent. The Empress turned to Rylan, her face glowing in the golden chaos. There is one way to stop it, she said. She pointed toward the central platform where a circular pattern glowed. If I connect to the forge and kiss you there, it will reset the core, but I will vanish. Rylan's chest tightened. No, there has to be another way, he said. She shook her head gently. This is the way it has always been. The price of ending the curse. The Oracle's voice grew distorted. Fusion required, countdown initiated. 1 minute to collapse. The Empress placed a trembling hand on his cheek. Every time I tried to save the galaxy alone, I failed, she whispered. But maybe with you, I can end it. Rylan held her hand tightly. If this is fate, we face it together. As they stepped onto the glowing circle, the light surrounded them both. The air trembled. The sun outside flared bright red. The Empress whispered, when the kiss comes. Don't be afraid. Rylan nodded, his eyes locked with hers. The world around them cracked and blazed with fire, and as the Oracle's final words echoed through the chamber, fusion complete in 5, 4, 3. The Empress took one last breath and whispered, for love, for light, for freedom. And their lips met as the Starforge exploded in a storm of golden flame. The light swallowed everything. There was no sound, no ground, no sky. Only golden fire spinning in the air like a storm of souls. Captain Rylan Kane felt himself drifting, his body weightless, his heart pounding. The kiss still burned on his lips, soft yet endless. He opened his eyes and saw her, Empress Serafina Dravar, floating before him, her armor breaking apart into glowing dust. She looked calm, peaceful, and for the first time free. Her golden eyes shimmered with tears. Not of sorrow, but release. He tried to reach her, but light separated them like a veil. Serafina, he shouted. Her voice answered gently, echoing through the fire. Do not fear, Rylan, it is beginning, not the end. All around them, the Starforge roared like a dying god, its chains melting into streams of light. The Oracle's voice screamed, error, fusion unstable. Human emotion corrupting core. Failure imminent. The chamber cracked apart. And through its walls, Rylan saw the impossible. Stars that had died centuries ago were reigniting. Planets once burned were glowing again with life. The galaxy was waking up. Rylan's feet touched the platform again. But the Empress was fading. Her form flickered between light and shadow. "Don't do this," he whispered. "We can stop it together." She smiled softly. "You already did," she said, her voice trembling like the wind. "Your choice gave me what the Oracle never understood, hope." He took a step closer, trying to hold her. But his hands passed through her like sunlight through mist. Tears filled his eyes. "You don't have to go." She looked at him with love that crossed worlds. "I must, Rylan, someone must guide the rebirth. But I will not vanish. I will become part of the stars." The Oracle's final words came like static. System collapse. Consciousness dispersing. Evolution achieved. Then silence. The sphere of light that had once been the Starforge burst outward. A wave of pure energy rolled through the palace, through the ships, through the stars. And when it passed, everything was still. Rylan opened his eyes slowly. He stood in the same hall where it all began. The throne was cracked, the walls dimmed, but he was alive. Outside the window, the red sun had turned golden. The fleets floated silently, their weapons powered down, and across the sky, millions of small lights drifted, each one glowing softly. Like the fragments of a soul, he looked up and whispered, "Seraphina." A single ray of light touched his face, warm and gentle. He smiled faintly. "You kept your promise." The doors opened behind him. Her advisor, the silver-skinned alien, entered cautiously. He bowed deeply, his voice trembling. "Captain Kane, the Oracle's link is gone. The drones are silent. The energy flow has stabilized the Empress. She is nowhere to be found." Rylan turned toward him, his expression calm but heavy. "She's everywhere," he said quietly. "In every sun. Every spark." The advisor lowered his head. "What shall we tell the people?" Rylan looked at the bright horizon outside. "Tell them the Empress chose love over fear," he said. "Tell them the age of the Starforge is over." Time passed slowly. The Empire began to change. Worlds once enslaved were freed. The fleets stopped fighting, and every planet beneath the Empress's old banner saw a new sunrise. Brighter and warmer than before, they called it the Day of Light. Rylan became the first human ambassador to the new Galactic Union. But no one ever called him commander or hero. They called him the keeper of her promise. He carried her crown, now a quiet relic, with him wherever he went sometimes. When he stood beneath the stars, he could hear her voice again, soft and distant. "You chose love over fear, and now the stars belong to you." Years later, legends would rise about the Empress who kissed humanity back to life. Some said she became the guardian spirit of the cosmos. Others said she still walked among the stars, hidden in starlight. But Rylan knew the truth. Every sunrise, every spark of warmth, every heartbeat in the galaxy was her memory. One evening, he returned to the same balcony where they first spoke. The flowers still glowed. The air still carried the scent of rain on stone. He placed the crown on the railing and whispered, "The galaxy remembers you, Seraphina." A gentle wind passed through the palace, lifting the crown into the air. It dissolved into golden dust that scattered across the stars. Rylan watched it fade, his eyes full of peace. He whispered one last time, "Until the next dawn, my Empress," and far away in the heart of the new sun, a whisper answered him, soft and eternal, "I am here." The galaxy shimmered with new life. The curse was gone, the fear erased, and among the endless stars, where once there was only war, there was now light. There was now hope. There was love. And thus ended the legend of the Galactic Empress and the human who defied fate. Their story written not in books or monuments, but in the living stars themselves, forever shining, forever remembered, forever reborn.